Hi, I'm Matt with State of Flux. This is our first official fan commentary. Today I'm joined by a special guest.
I'm also Matt.
Yes. What is your background with, you're a doctor.
I am, but not a real or useful doctor. I'm a doctor of psychology, so I have a PhD, and I'm a professor out in California.
Very cool. He was very keen to join in and do a commentary for my favorite movie. We're gonna play the movie now. I have it all synced up, so what you're gonna do is just press play, or if you don't even want to watch the movie and just listen to us drone on about the movie as we talk about it, feel free. But we're gonna go the entire runtime of the movie, or until my camera battery fails. We shall see. All right. Syncing up the movie, pressing play in 3, 2, 1. The movie is muted, and here's the Universal logo. I thought that they did something really cool with the Universal logo.
I don't remember this.
They go to the traditional Universal logo, and then that is when the... I'm going to put the subtitles on. That is when the opening monologue kicks in, the backstory of the movie.
Okay.
With Earth that was could no longer sustain life, which is not appearing on the screen. There we go.
There it is.
I thought going from the Universal logo into the world was really kind of neat. They do a really interesting job getting the backstory in for people who have never seen the show, or adding a nice recap for those that have.
I agree. Like it's really smooth. Like you don't even realize the transition and all of the backstory they're like feeding in right here, but it does a really good job of summarizing everything.
Yes, I agree. So, how did you come to Firefly?
So you actually, this was back in, was it middle school or high school?
High school.
High school. You told me about this show, Firefly, and you pitched it very terribly, saying it was a space western, which it was. There's no other way to pitch it. And so you're like, it's a sci-fi show, but like they use like guns or like cowboys sometimes in space. And you gave me the entire DVD set. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. But I didn't think I was gonna like it, so it was months and months. And then finally, I watched an episode. And I don't remember if it was the first episode I was hooked or the second, but I ended up watching it, and then within the next day I didn't do anything else, and I finished the entire series. I'm like, you were so right, Matt. And to this day, it's still my favorite television show or season of all time.
It is so good. I agree. Weirdly enough, we had that same thing. I was the lender. I had the physical copy, and I gave it to people, and every person I gave it to, it sat for weeks on their shelves until I peer pressured them into watching it.
Yeah.
Going back to the movie, I like what they did here, where you get the backstory of the world, the universe. You meet young River, everything seems normal, and then all of a sudden you slam cut into her as an adult, and the abnormalness starts to unravel and unweave. And then you look at this guy, the way he's lit, Simon, if you're first-time viewer, you think he is clearly a villain. He's shot so villainously.
He really is. And this entire scene is so creepy.
Yeah, like the unsettling blue. And then the music really helps, which obviously we can't hear right now, but the music helps too, especially when he has his turn and is revealed to be a heroic character and her brother. You get the ping pong kind of sound that's a little more soft and harmonious compared to the sort of unsettling strings that you're hearing beforehand. Good time to talk about characters. I really like this guy. I'm not sure what his name is, the doctor here, but he does have this air of oozy pride, I guess.
Yeah, he's very realistic. I fully believe.
I like that special
Yes,
effect.
that's good.
That is a good effect. Before we talk about characters, I'm going to hit you with a couple things that I wrote down. So, this movie came out September 30th, 2005. I saw it opening day for the first show. What would you say, like, this is an expensive looking movie. What do you think the budget of this movie is?
Oh, I'm just completely shot in the dark. 20. I'm gonna go $40 million.
You are so close. It is $39 million.
Oh.
In today's money, that with inflation, it's $59.4 million. That said, Revenge of the Sith came out the same year. The budget on that was $113 million.
Yeah.
And I honestly think this looks better. I don't know if it's the more tangible like sets and stuff like that, which Lucas kind of got dinged on, but I think the special effects, as minimally used as they are, look really solid. That like brainwave thing that he had used was really kind of pimp looking.
Yeah, it looked great.
How much money do you think this made in its theatrical run?
I have a feeling it wasn't. Was it successful? I'm gonna go $50 million.
So opening weekend, it made $10 million. Translated today, that's 15.2. Its entire domestic run was 25.5. Worldwide, it hit 40.4.
Oh.
So it barely made its money back, but if you include advertising and stuff, it didn't make its money back, which is probably why we never got Serenity 2. That said, in researching this, and I knew this ahead of time, I just didn't realize how wide-ranging it is. The film was previewed several times ahead of its release for fans only, which seems weird for a fan-driven project. I always thought that actress looked like Hermione, like circa 2005 Hermione.
Oh, really? I never.
Goblet of Fire would come out like 2 months later, and she looks very similar to how Emma Watson looked in that movie. Anyway, so it had a preview run in November of 2004 in San Fernando. And then on May 5th in 2005, it released for one night in 10 cities for fan screening. Then May 26th, it did 20 cities. And then June 23rd, 35 cities. And then July 22nd, it opened up in Australia for one night. You think you're cutting your audience by a lot, especially for a fan-driven film. You probably would have gotten your... I have to imagine that if those cities are sold out for that one individual show apiece, you're looking at thousands, if not millions of dollars you're losing opening weekend by not doing that. I get doing like 1 or 2 test screenings or something.
Yeah.
But going 10 cities, 20 cities, and 35 cities...
That's weird. And you're also shooting yourself in the foot because that creates the people going to those showings are the big fans who would tell their friends and everybody to go opening weekend, but then if there's 6 months before the movie's released,
yeah,
you're kind of losing any momentum you would get from the super fans.
And the problem is like, this movie's a hard sell, so I get why a studio would want to try and do it, because when you explain this movie to somebody, it sounds batshit crazy and straight up stupid. It's like, this is a space western with zombies in it, that's also kind of a comedy, romance, but particularly an action movie.
Yeah.
And if you're not a fan of genre films, and you've just named every genre in one, like, you're not going to respond well to that pitch.
Now, I do think the movie... It's not quite as much of a Western, I would say, as the show. And so it's more like a sci-fi. I think they could have pitched it more just as like a pure sci-fi sort of movie.
Yes.
But which is sometimes a hard sell for fans as well. Or not for fans, but for general audiences.
General audiences, for sure. And it was supposed to come out in April of 2005. But with Star Wars coming out just a month away and the hype for that, they probably wisely moved it. However, they were in April. They could have been the lead-in to the hype.
Yeah.
And this is more intellectual than that film is. I happen to like Revenge of the Sith, but like this film has more intellectual leaning and really strong grasp of action. I think this would have like whetted the palate of people. Rather than...
The scene's so good.
Yeah, the scene is great. I also like his weird tie thing.
Yeah.
Like, the tie tuck shirt is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Doesn't she look kind of like Hermione?
Oh, yeah, I can see it now.
I always felt that. We just glossed over that whole scene. The whole scene there is insanely good. This is a well-written character. I love the character of the operative. He is my all-time favorite movie villain. he's my Darth Vader or whatever.
He's very believable. Like it's like creepy because he's so calm but he's like so good at what he does. Like, yeah, it's perfect.
And it's so steeped in belief. The whole movie is essentially about belief, right? And he believes in what he's doing and knows that he can't be a part of it, but he wants to make better worlds. And when he's given that opportunity and whatnot to see what a perfect world without sin looks like, it's genuinely horrifying, and I like that.
Yeah.
This shot is also fantastic. I like the translucent river, too.
Yeah.
This movie had a small budget, but every bit of it's on screen. Whereas, for context, I looked up the budget of Joker, because that had, an astronomical budget that I just didn't understand. The reports differ, but anywhere from $55 to $70 million.
Jeez.
And, where's it going outside of the actors? I guess Robert De Niro and, Joaquin Phoenix are expensive, but
yeah,
that's two people.
Are there, explosions where they just blew up really expensive stuff?
Like a city melee or whatever, but I just don't understand. The introduction of Serenity itself here is...
Yeah, when they show the ship, I'd do a little fist pump.
Yeah, and the music here is just, roaring and perfect. They had a different composer for the movie than the TV show. Probably wisely so. This has a more cinematic sound to it. But going back to characters, I think this movie introduces everything perfectly. You have the scene of the backstory, the transitions to why River was there the day she broke out from captivity with the aid of Simon. And the way the movie reads, you could believe that Mal's the one that picked them up, but we know, having watched the show, that's not the case. Then you're shown that is just a video recording. You pull back and you have your main villain watching the moment that he is sort of called to action in trying to find her. You get his entire belief structure laid out in front of you. Then you transition to the title of the film, which transitions to the ship, which is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
Dip inside the ship, and in a continuing shot, you follow Mal and all the crew members doing what they're supposed to do.
And within this 2-minute sequence with about one line with each character, you kind of get who they are from the show, and you basically get their backstory. It's epic ship, you're oh, this is a cool state-of-the-art ship, and then you see it start to fall apart, and then you see Wash, and he's a little joking, and then he goes down, talks with Jane, who he very much states what his character is. And,
yeah.
Oh, and Kaylee. Kaylee's my biggest movie crush of all time.
I get that. She is. I love how she plays that character. She is so amazing and adorable. The conflict here between these two is well written. He still has that air of villainy to him.
Yeah.
He's the perfect Disney Prince villain. If they made a live action Frozen, he would be the bad
You're
guy.
absolutely right.
But he also has a softness to him in the scenes where that matters.
Yeah.
Everybody here is just perfectly cast. That goes back to the show.
I will say this, when I first saw this movie, Simon is a little more, I guess, hard and angry than I feel like he was in the show, where in the show he's a bit more of a pushover.
He is, definitely. You get slight change-ups of character with him, a little bit with Book, but otherwise everybody else is relatively similar.
And I buy into the Simon one because this is his in the show, everything he's done has been to protect his sister, so he's kind of a pushover for himself, but I do believe that if his sister's being put in danger, that's when he'll, right? I mean, he risked his life and gave up everything to save her. He would definitely chew out Mal for putting her in any danger.
Yeah, totally. So the other thing that what was I gonna say? Oh, shoot. Oh well. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But yeah, we've woven through, seen everybody. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Is that there's two very distinct absences in this scene. If you're watching the show. Now, if you had watched the show, you knew that Inaro was going to leave, But when you enter this ship and Book's not on it, it was really weird. And I think there was no good way the movie could do with the limited time they had Ron Glass to work with. Because you couldn't have him be there kind of all the time. So having him off planet is fine, but they should. That's the one thing that I think this scene is missing is like somebody should have just made a passing reference to Book not being on the ship. Because we get from the show, we got that Inara's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
That very much looks like a Star Trek uniform shirt.
It does.
I just noticed that for the first time right now. The reason that Book was not included, and why the two characters that ultimately will die in this film die, is because they couldn't commit to sequels. In the original script they had, everybody survived.
I didn't know that.
I think it works better with them having passed, because there's like a weight to everything, making this movie matter. I like her flowy dress thing here. That's nice. This scene sums up Mal better than any scene. The one thing you didn't get with Mal outside of he was captain of the ship in the previous scene is who he is. This scene is where you get that. This is what I do as a joke, and then the somber, this is what I do.
Yeah, that's great.
So everything in the script to this point, and we are 15 minutes in, has been just perfectly tightly woven in there so that you can get understanding and context. And it's the best kind of movie in that it invites multiple viewings, because you miss things the first time that you'll pick up on a second.
Yeah. I also really like that they're doing all this backstory, introducing you to all the characters, but they're building tension at the same time, right? They're getting ready to go on this mission, so
Yeah.
it's kind of exciting, like, tension building, rather than, like, a very slow, boring kind of intro that sometimes movies get sucked into.
Yeah. And the other wise thing, the movie is called Serenity. You're actually shown every room in Serenity, basically, throughout that opening scene as well. So that when he calls it a home later, this is our home is repeated by Zoe and then later Mal.
Sorry, I can't hear what you're saying when Bailey says
I get that. I like that like little moment of sadness she has. I feel for her so bad. It sucks.
It does.
She's so good at this movie too. But you really feel like that is their home when you're shown every aspect of it, and it's a cold, industrial-looking ship. Yet they put throw rugs down that are bright orange that catch your eye subtly. You don't realize it, but they do things to make it look like a home.
Yeah.
And I like that.
On my last watching of it, maybe I'll see it again, but like I noticed Kaylee has like a little like sign outside her door that says Kaylee's room in like a hand drawn sort of sketch. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch.
Yeah, there's so much that they put into this. And like the shots here, the choice of shots are just fantastic. I like the great "Let's be bad guys" big hero shot saying the least heroic thing.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. I get how Whedon would get a job like The Avengers off of this movie. This was his first feature film. He hadn't directed any features before.
Okay.
He had written feature film screenplays, some of which famous, like he got an Oscar nomination for Toy Story, and some of which much maligned, which we'll get into in a little bit. This shot is so good.
Yeah.
You get that, you heard that she's a psychic, and this kind of visually shows that. And then Zoe gets my favorite line of hers in this scene. I like...
This is the hero line?
The hero line. I love that. And do you want to know what the definition of a hero is? Someone who gets other people killed.
Nice.
I like it. It's good. It's just badass enough.
Yeah.
But it also gets you kind of thinking that there's truth in that.
Yeah.
Especially in a scenario such as a bank robbery. The guy who does his voice.
I love this. Just the sarcasm.
The look on his face of frustration. So the old man is not actually speaking, it's Joss Whedon doing
really?
All the brown coats, eh? I discovered that when I was doing my research. This scene is used in all the trailers.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Okay. It's brilliant. The humor in this movie really helps elevate, and going back to the Avengers of it all, like you could see how he did so much with so little that they giving him something so grand kind of makes sense. I didn't realize until my most recent viewing that Reaver actually slays that woman there holding the baby. I'd always just sort of read it as a facet in her head that she saw the Reaver at that moment.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the part of the camera.
Is that in the future? Because they haven't landed yet.
Yeah, maybe.
Or is she like seeing what's about to happen?
I don't know. That's interesting. I always read it as they had just landed, or one of them was already down there.
And there may have been a ship that already landed.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then Jane says they're here or they're coming soon, so that kind of like says like, yeah, is she seeing things right now, or is it like slightly in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is such an intense shot. I love that. That freaked me out when I saw it in the theater. I saw it in the very front row. And, like, that was just insanely intimidating.
Yeah.
And this also kind of sets up who Mal is as a character. And I like the conflict that it eventually causes between him and Zoe.
Yeah.
How do you respond to the Reavers? Because I've talked to other friends of ours who are not necessarily on board with how the Reavers are portrayed in this film. I think it's because essentially they are just zombies.
I think they're more complicated than zombies, or I like them like in that, especially as the movie goes on and you learn more about the backstory. I think they're kind of terrifying. I mean, they're the like quick moving zombies, so a little bit like that. But I think they're kind of they're so monster like that, right? They're cannibals. They like rape. They eat you alive. Like, yeah. And you just. I think they work because it's obvious how terrified everybody else is of them.
Yeah. I agree. I never had an issue with the Reavers. I know that some people kind of take the belief that he probably never should have shown them. They worked more effective when you didn't know what they actually were. But then I fall to the idea that they would be kind of alien-y, and I like that they're straight up not aliens. They are just people gone mad.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do think shows the age special effects wise is whenever they have clouds or smoke, it does not look real. The ships look great. The lighting effects on metal and
I love
stuff.
this scene.
Oh, I did too. I freaked out when I saw this in the theater. I was like, "Oh my god, are they gonna kill Jane?"
Yeah.
And like,
shoot me if they take me. Don't shoot me first.
He's so great in that line. This is a great shot too.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really notice the smoke or things not being super realistic, but I can see that.
Like, I mean, the ship looked great there. That was a great shot of the ship. But yeah, when the smoke billowing behind the Reaver's ship and later on in the ion cloud, that's the part where it shows its age.
Yeah.
The ion cloud specifically, I think, never really looked good. I remember being in the theater thinking, like, they could have done another pass at this.
Yeah.
But I assumed it had more of a budget than it actually did. I thought this was a $100 million movie. Thank God it wasn't. He wouldn't have had a career again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that's the shot that kind of always irks me, where it's like nothing but the smoke. It looks like like on Lost, the smoke monster.
Yes.
But on a TV show, it's okay to look that cheap.
Yeah.
I don't mean to pick on this. This is my all-time favorite movie. Going into the film, I tried not to watch. I watched the two trailers that existed, but that was it. I tried not to watch them very often, and yikes.
Do you think that's a little bit of foreshadowing?
Oh, absolutely. That is totally foreshadowing. I like how just wrecked they are from this. I like to call them. They're just wrecked from this tiny little bout with the Reavers, so that when you see them later, you know all hell's gonna break loose.
I also love that they just keep pumping it.
It's true. They take that guy out. But
also, how Kayla pushes past Jane, who just got shot through the leg, and
yeah, Simon has no injuries. The use of humor in this is so good because it does release the tension. I know a lot of people criticize the Marvel movies for being too funny and jokey, and I think a large part of that comes from Whedon's Avengers. However, he uses humor to release tension or energy or whatever, and a lot of the other Marvel movies are less good at doing
they
that.
kind of shove it in to be funny, which I actually like.
I like the humor.
Marvel
Yeah, I like the Marvel movies. I do think they rely an awful lot on just making fun of each other's names.
Yeah.
It's really go back and watch each movie post Avengers, and a lot of the jokes just stem from names.
I haven't picked up on that, but that's all. And now I won't be able to unhear it.
It's so true. It's really weird. So now we are going back off-world, and the tension starts getting ramped up between these two, which I like. Yeah. He's just done with Simon and wants to get Simon River off his boat. And that's what he thinks this argument is about, but it's not. And she calls him out for his actions. And it shows how truly desperate they are, where they're willing to kill a man so that they can eat.
Yeah.
And that kind of puts you in their own world perspective. And I like how these people who are painted as the heroes aren't necessarily all that heroic.
It makes them a much more, I guess, complicated character, right?
Yeah.
It's always toss the payload, right? And everyone's instinct is yeah, no, toss the money, you can get more money later. And then he's just yeah, the ship's falling apart. If we back out on this job, we won't get any more work, or they'll kill us.
Yeah. He's the perfect Han Solo, painted better than Han Solo kind of ever was. You're told little glimpses and stuff, and that happens kind of naturally because over time you sit with a character and see areas you can really flesh it out. But I think Han Solo, you never really see this aspect of him, the man just trying to work for a job who just gets caught up into this whole mess. I think it's much better illustrated with the Mal character here, as well as having him be kind of both scummy and also heroic.
Yeah.
I like this scene a lot. It's super important, weirdly, in setting up who the Reavers are and what happened with Book, as well as giving you the perfect example of Jane as a character.
Which one thing I'm just picking up on now is he's talking about how, well, if I'm getting paid, mostly when I'm getting paid, I'll kill a guy. But he's also hauling all this crap when he just got shot through the leg. He's bandaged up, and he's still just puts his head down, will do the work, and
Yeah, this is just perfect characterization. A lot of people kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier with the pre-screenings and stuff for the fans. A lot of fans are not hugely into this movie in a weird way. And I think it's probably just them being upset with characters getting killed off or certain creative decisions that were made with the movie. But I think that also probably hurt them in the long run.
I'll be honest. My first showing of Serenity, I liked it, but I wasn't blown away. And then when I rewatched, because like I liked the show so much, and I was probably a little disappointed with it. So like I liked it, but like then on rewatches, that's when I'm like, this is a fantastic movie.
I agree. That was well, like the first time I saw it, I was blown away just in general. But then, upon rewatches, I realized it was my favorite movie. It took time to recognize it, but there it is. This shot too is also really good.
That is really good, yeah.
Like they make good use of both their green screen and their blending it into real sets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this movie was done so on the cheap that they had to recycle costuming from The Fifth Element, Starship Troopers, things like that. So they just went into the warehouse and started pulling out anything they could use. I also like did we miss the shot of the flying car? I think we did.
I think, yeah.
I like that, like, touch of futuristic world building, but it also builds the world in the sense that, like, only you don't see tons of them. It's only the luxurious douchebag that has that.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it the space western believable, is that, oh, okay, like, they've colonized all these worlds, like, super advanced technology exists, but clearly most people in the universe are just trying to survive and they don't have access to it.
Yeah. This is like the Hunger Games, just off-planet. It feels very realistic in the, like, if you're ever off-planet, it's going to be like the Old West again. Just trying to maintain semblance of order and living your life, trying to colonize other worlds and stuff. So this always felt like the more authentic version of Star Wars to me. Star Wars and Star Trek certainly feel much more utopic.
Mm-hmm.
Is utopic a word?
I think it works.
We're working with it. Alright. So now you're seeing the characters no longer on mission, being more comfortable with themselves, and seeing how they interplay when they don't have a job on the line. And it's interesting to see that interplay and how the characters that you were shown before, this is the best line.
Yeah.
His reaction.
I can't know that. I could stand it.
It's so good. You get the real moments that you get when you hang out with your friends. Or roommates or whatever.
Yeah.
I adore that.
And then, they introduce it. I like Zoe and Wash in the background just being like, oh.
Yep, this is awkward. I like this shot. The camera just zips to the side.
I also love Mal's line here.
Yeah,
me
too. He's
Fanny's prettier.
It's so good. The confident swagger that Mal has is just excellent.
Yeah.
We kind of buzzed over the introduction of Inara. We saw a little brief video of her interlaid with, like, Summer Glau just lying on the metal grate. And that was just kind of nice for people who were missing her, like, oh yes, she is officially off-world now, it's too bad, and maybe that's the only bit of Inara we're going to get. And if you're being introduced to this show, or into the movie, having never seen the show, you can, it's a good introduction to her and the loss of her presence for these characters, so that when she turns up later, it's not weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're coming up to the
I like how as they're like talking about all of Mal's like weaknesses, Jane's just like, yeah.
Yeah, just full agreement on every one of them. I like the kind of neat set of this. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mos Eisley spaceport vibes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think almost more realistic, like.
It's almost too bad that Disney offered episode 7 to Whedon, but he turned it down.
Oh, really? That would have been interesting.
They went to JJ first. JJ turned it down. Then they went all around Hollywood. One of the early people I asked was Whedon, and he said that he had no interest in doing a mainline story. He'd be fine with doing like a smaller one. This whole thing, the Fruitioti bar, this fight is exceptional. The fade out of color, fade into color with the quick snap of the when she hits them is just stunning. She did all of her own stunts on this.
Wow.
She was a dancer, and basically they just choreographed the fight as if it were a dance, which is awesome.
Yeah. It works well. Like, I feel like she's a more believable fighter than a lot of, like, small, like, female characters.
Yeah.
Because of, how they choreograph it.
Yeah, it's well
she's not,
shot.
like, lifting giant men and just tossing them. She's, like, using the,
They also don't go for the Black Widow scissor kick thing, which oftentimes when you have a female heroine, I don't know why, they immediately go for a scissor kick. And you don't really get that here. That kick is just so awesome.
Yeah.
The way they stare each other down and each are hitting their own respective person is fantastic. I miss there should have been a sound effect when she hits him in the genitals. Let's see here.
And the crew haven't ever seen her fight before, right?
No, they haven't. Like, she's done weird stuff and she's been violent in the past, but they've never seen her unleash. And we also get that, like, brief little mention of Miranda.
Yeah.
Which sets up a great mystery.
I thought it was really interesting just from a psychological perspective, because clearly she's unleashed. She was triggered by that word, like, with that programming. But she still recognizes, like, Jane and Matt, like, right, there's a moment, she still knocks Jane the F out, but, like, there's, like, that hesitation, and she doesn't immediately shoot Mal, so it's, like, almost like there's this, like, programming in her, but she also still recognizes people to some extent.
Yeah. So if this were a TV show, if this were the movie, that would have been the episode act, or the episode break. That would have been the end of the episode for, like, if this were a two-parter. I feel like this could be split into 3 movies, and if you look, it's about 36 minutes. That's essentially what episode 1 of Serenity, this is like season 2 of Serenity, or of Firefly. Yeah. And this scene would be the opening act of or the opening scene of the next episode.
I like, they give more background, like, just as he's, like, looking up, like, Mel, right, he's hunting this person, he finally figures out who it is, like, they like, identified it, and then you see, not as, like, in your face, like, we're gonna take time out of the movie to explain who Mal was, like, they mentioned the war, but then it, like, shows, like, his history and all the stats he has on it.
It's literally bullet points for the audience, and it works, because the audience who has never seen the show is operating off the same information the operative is, and it works. This scene is wonderfully shot. I like how it started through the window of the door, and as if we're the bystanders watching this intense moment, and then it comes to them. He's explaining.
I love
the joke is perfect, and it's there to let the audience know that it won't work on everybody, and they make the best joke out of it. It's so good. But then you see just a glimpse of Mal losing it.
Yeah.
The camera swivels around, and that shot right there tells everything about her character, and then you see her husband in the background of that same shot.
Now
fear on Kaylee.
Here's my question for you, is who do you think she was reaching the gun for? Was she going to point it at Mal or at Simon? I
assume she was going to shoot Mal.
Okay.
Because she's seen what he's like in the war, and I think she's afraid that he lost all purpose and reason. Mm-hmm. So without that governing him, he could be a monster, and that's why she would shoot him.
Yeah.
That shot was always one of my favorites. And then you just have Jane nonchalantly just munching on food and driving us to the next point of the movie of like, what do we do with them? They're not supposed to be here anymore, which is what the audience is thinking as well.
Yeah. I'm just
That's a great shot too. Use of editing in this is quite strong.
I like Wash's like, can I make a suggestion that doesn't make violence, or is this the wrong crowd?
He's so good in the movie. Alan Tudyk is one of my favorite actors.
He's so good.
And he has such a range. He can do anything. He can be lovable, nice guy. I always felt he'd make a good Joker. But
almost like, Dollhouse.
Yeah.
He was the villain.
When I saw that, I was convinced. I was like, Heath Ledger had just passed. I was like, if they ever do a Joker, he should be it. And they cast Jared Leto.
Yeah.
So we have Mr. Universe, who's new character in the movie. I like him. David Krumholtz is fantastic here. He had just come off of a brief stint in Harold and Kumar.
Oh, that's where he's from.
He's also from the Santa Claus movies. He's the eldest elf. But I liked his character in Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have the reprisal of the Buffy bot in the background for whatever reason. I don't know why that's a thing in Whedon projects, but he's had it in at least 2, and if you count Dollhouse, kind of 3.
Yeah. Wait, was that in Dollhouse?
It was they're all dolls,
yeah.
right? They're not physical robots, but Buffy had the weird sex bot.
Yeah.
And then he does as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's such a small part of the movie that I'm like, was it necessary? But I think it adds,
it's necessary.
And he's Mr. Universe is, completely alone for so long. You're like, okay, I could see him going a little insane and having a...
I mean, he is prototypical internet guy that just views women as dolls. However, I could see how an argument could be made pretty authentically that since this is a repeated motif in Whedon's works, that even though he is a quote-unquote feminist-skewed writer, and that can be debated, he doesn't necessarily think a ton of women to some extent.
Yeah.
However, I would also make the argument that he doesn't necessarily think much of men either.
I think so. I think it's more a picture of humanity and how some people just think of other people as objects.
Yes, exactly. And it's with all the different bots, sort of with the exception of this one, it's always a man who has and is in control of them. And in the other 2 works, Dollhouse and Buffy, you grow a lot of sympathy for the doll, and they're framed sympathetically. Here, the doll is just there as a catalyst to give Mal the information on how to get the signal out.
Yeah.
But
although in Dollhouse, there's male dolls.
There are male dolls.
They're just not the main protagonist.
Yeah, exactly. I like her little breakdown here.
Yeah.
She is so good. It's kind of shocking she didn't have... all these people should have had a much stronger career than they've had.
I was thinking that too, yeah.
They're all so good in this, and they all look like movie stars, or perform as movie stars, with such a strong range. And the fact that every one of these characters hits beats of humor and drama almost in tandem with each other is...
I love this.
Yeah.
Who's
and talking to Miranda now.
and her face? Just
That is such a...
I'm a little crazy, but I'm not.
Yeah, her face there is great. And then how he shrugs it off is fantastic. But that's what a doctor would do in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't know. But yeah. So... Yeah, her breakdown, she is so good in this movie. This movie opened up on the same day as Hurricane Katrina hit.
Oh, really?
think that also probably did a number on its box office potential. That shot of her pulling the gun up is startling, like, every time. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then things are going to get much, much worse.
Yeah, and the fact
just so matter of fact.
Yeah, it's great. And then that is one of my favorite shots in, like, all of cinema. Just the beautiful elegance of it, and then the stark fear that she has upon seeing this guy. Now we're finally being introduced to my favorite character from the TV show. I was always a big Book fan.
Yeah.
He's got a different look in this movie, but I kind of like his look.
Yeah.
He is. He's only got 3 scenes, but he steals the show. And maybe it's because he's like the moral compass of the story, of the morality tale that unfolds. But
yeah, I really like him because he's not overly preachy for a preacher.
Yeah, he's not, and so much so that you get the. I mean, he even says it, like, why? I'm always talking about belief. Why do you assume I'm talking about God?
Yeah.
I think that's something that is not often explored. Is the fact that he is a preacher, but we don't know if he even necessarily believes in God himself. But I believe that he believes in his teaching. He believes in what he's doing is right. And that's his whole motivation. Did you ever read the comic?
I did, like the little short. I did. It's been so long. I was just thinking that. I can't remember all of the backstory behind it, but...
So you find out that he was not unlike an operative.
I figured, okay.
He worked with the Alliance, but the whole story just keeps going back and back and back further, and you find out that he never was in the Alliance for any real good reason. It was written by Whedon's brothers, Zach, I believe, and it's a good comic. However, I do feel like it's one of those things that where I kind of like the mystery of it better than the example. I liked the comic better the second time I read it.
Okay. Maybe I think I'll have to go back and look at it again. Oh yeah, here's the...
Yeah.
Why do you always assume I'm talking about God?
And then he stops. We're shown in the TV show more than the movie that he was a very firm Christian believer. The first shot we get of Mal after he jumps off of a rock, like shooting guns, is him holding a cross and kissing it as he's like fighting in his war. And then he loses that belief the moment that Serenity Valley is called, the war to surrender. And he's been very anti-God from that moment forward.
I like this scene too, of like, oh, there's that backstory, and he's like, you'll have to tell me, and like, everyone's assuming he's just like, yeah, sometime, right? And he's like, no, I don't have to tell you.
No, don't. He's so good at that scene. There's so much warmth to that scene, too, for such a harshly lit, dark scene. There's so much warmth between the two of them that you know that he is a man that you can trust if you've never seen the show.
Yeah.
And it hurts all the more when he comes back later. I like the double cut of the cut them down. That's great. I like the attention to detail here to a point. He gets injured several times in the show, and all the scars that he has on his body, you can see and pick out the episodes he got them from, be it the shot, the stab wound in the chest, in his side he has from the when he got run through with the sword and shindig and stuff. However, he's a war hero, right? He should have way more scars than that. They put just the ones from the show as a nice Easter egg. I would have gone hog wild on putting scars on him. Like, did you ever see? You've seen the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
When he takes off his shirt and he's just riddled with fucking scars and he's pulling teeth out of his mouth.
Yeah.
That movie's better than people give it credit for. There's one bad scene, and unfortunately you can't get past it. But that's a different commentary, folks. Moving on to the scene, I like the the romantic tension that you got from the show continues here.
Yeah.
It's quite cute. I like that they're just sitting there watching popcorn and throwing.
Like actual
It's so good. It's a good looking scar too. It looks real.
Yeah.
Like, so it looks real in that somebody not professionally sewed it up, which is exactly what happened.
Yep. I also like this because both these characters are such smooth talkers, like in every other like situation, but then when they're like talking with each other, they're like so awkward and stammering.
Yeah, the stuttering is a nice touch for both of them. Yeah, this reveal here,
Trap.
like trap. Oh yeah, it's a trap. It's so good. This part here is also pretty cute. Did you see us fight? I like how he called them all out.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Did you see us fight? Nope. Crap. And that's
And then
enough
just,
said.
yeah. Everyone just accepts it.
Yeah. I like the touch of the dinosaurs on the dash from the show.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I discovered. They didn't have the blueprints from the show anymore because nobody ever thought there was going to be a movie, so they tore down the sets and they had to recreate everything. But the blueprints didn't exist anymore, except Nathan Fillion was so excited to be the star of his own TV show. He took pictures of all the production details, including the blueprints, and he was able to submit them for the movie to recreate authentically the ship.
Nice.
Which, like, that's blind luck if ever I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I like this little cute thing here. It's also interesting that we see various religions represented. You have like the sort of Christian, certainly his agnostic / atheistic leanings, but she's practicing Buddhism, I imagine, right? And then when you see Mr. Universe and his love bot, he breaks the glass and stuff, right?
Jewish,
so Judaism, yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
The confrontation of these two here is so nice and peaceful, yet it is one of the most intense things, because you know what each man is capable of, and one's just kind of a wild beast who will do anything, and the other one is a very calculated warrior. And this part should not have been in all the trailers. It's kind of a shame.
Oh, was it in all the yeah. Oh, with the exploding incense.
No,
or was the shooting.
The shooting thing. Are you armed? Good.
Yeah.
They should have held that. But I do remember taking a couple of people who had never seen the trailer even to see this, and when that happened, they were like,
yeah. I think it is a little interesting, because I'm like, what if he shot him in the face?
He absolutely should have. I mean, it's such a movie thing,
yeah.
But...
I mean, I guess in the war, like, if you're not expecting people to have body armor, you would shoot them in, center mass. But I think they also knew, right, once he was down, like, even, he's not actually alone, right? They're going to be surrounded, so, like, they only have a couple seconds to get out. So it's, like, probably not actually going to kill him for good.
Yeah, it's true. I like how they're each kind of circling each other, and then this turn here is...
Where he's like, you can tell he doesn't like being called an assassin.
Yeah, he is so threatening there. It is, like, just a great villainous turn into the camera. The candles around, the use of framing in this film is just really striking. There's always places for your eyes to look.
Yeah.
That makes for an appealing frame.
I like I like how Mal, like, even though he's kind of, like, bullheaded, like, seems like he doesn't think things through, but he still has a plan. He's like, no, like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I know you'll have ships targeting us, so here's the beacon. And
yeah, it's like, kind of brilliant in how he's made to look like kind of a doof, but he's really not. He is the captain for a reason. And then the fight here is so scrappy.
Yeah.
I like that she goes in for it as well.
Yeah, because she knows, like, how she's not a fighter at all, but she tries.
Yeah, and you'd think she'd have some kind of training on some level to do small combat, and she goes in for it and doesn't look weird doing it, outside of the fact that she's in a tight dress.
Yeah.
Poor Mal. He's just looking like a...
No. And then that's chilling when he's just like, yeah.
Come with it.
And then what do you think's gonna happen here? Just...
Yeah. Oh. I like when he wraps the thing around his head. That's my favorite part of the fight. Because it does nothing.
No.
But it just shows that he's trying to use his surroundings. Which informs his character later when he grabs the screwdriver.
Yeah.
Man.
He gets a couple punches in.
Yeah, like...
But he's clearly overmatched in combat here.
Yeah, he is not prepared to take on this guy. God. I wonder how badly he got injured from that. Like, that looked like it was real metal. Even if it was rubber or something, that still would hurt.
Yeah.
I like how he calls him out, like, you're not the plucky hero, the alliance, like, this isn't just straight black and white. Yeah. Everything is not as it seems. And I like that she had a plan, too. My wonder was she always planning to escape in that moment, and Mal just showed up? Because she pre-lights that incense.
No.
Oh, she
does it because she's like, I'm going to pray for you, and then the operative says, she's so thoughtful. So I think that's when she's lighting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did she assume he was going to come for her, is my question.
Yeah, so she was prepared for sure.
Okay. And I like that he ditches all the pulse beacons and stuff.
Yeah.
So that they have no way of tracking where it actually went. However, that's the downfall, right? Wherever those things ended up going, he tracked and killed everybody there.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's from those actual... I think that's just to throw off the trace.
Throw the trace.
And then I think now that they know who the ship is, they're able to, like, go back and kind of do it. Because I don't think they would send those beacons
to specific
decoys.
places. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm assuming.
And, like, it's so good because you can see how they're scrappy. They have a plan to get out of these things. They've been in them before. This is just something where they are clearly overmatched.
Yeah.
This scene is probably one of the strongest in the film, where they're trying to suss out what specifically is going on with this threat, and ours back on the ship. What does this all mean?
Yeah, they're realizing this is really big.
Yes. And Whedon is famous for subverting expectations, and this is the scene that does that in the sense that you want to run the ship? Yes. Yeah. That's something that you never see in one of these movies.
That cracked me up every time I see it.
Just he's blindsided, like, well, you can't.
You can't, yeah.
I was not expecting you to say that. But then it immediately positions itself into this incredibly written dramatic moment where these two are coming, everything from their past is coming to a head right here. And everything that he's saying is not only affecting him, it's affecting her.
Yeah.
His anger there is great.
And then you can tell, like, oh, that's probably crossing the line.
And then the out of focus to exact precise laser focus is on her is perfect.
That was, yeah.
It's such informed filmmaking on the characters and what's going on between them. And also, that's how you experience things when you are put into a situation where you are just like in this blind rage, but you have to control yourself. That is how it feels.
Yeah, like the blood boiling out of, and then...
Yes. And like, you need to leave. And then he's like, yeah, I do. And I like his explosion here I like this joke. Nobody's saying that. Nobody besides Jane is saying that. She goes after Mal, and then he explains what he is.
Yeah.
He's got no rudder. He goes where he's supposed to go.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
It ties nicely back to that, like, this is what I do in the opening scene.
Yeah.
And then you thought, like...
She's the wind that spins him round. He doesn't know how to guide himself when she's around.
Yeah, which makes sense. He's a little harsh when he says, I wish you were elsewhere.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, Mal's always been kind of cruel to her.
Yeah.
I like this little segment here. She's back in her medical gown, which is interesting. This low beauty of this scene is kind of great for the moment when the monster shows.
Yeah.
I also like that we're not told yet what Miranda is, but we're given enough context clues that some people in the audience at this point is starting to figure it out, especially since they keep saying, what is that, instead of who is that?
Mm-hmm.
But you still don't know the significance of it.
No.
And it ties in. She shows the audience the bodies, and then the Reaver shows up.
Yep.
You were going to say something.
It still isn't clear to me, like, it's very Earth-like, but it, like, the way they showed it with the moon, it's not actually Earth, because there is an Earth in this universe, right?
There is an Earth. The only Earth you get to see is from the Universal logo as the ships are launching away from whatever disastrous ship that is. This is the Jane that we kind of got to meet several times in the show, where he turns his back on the crew. And I remember when they made a movie, when they announced the movie, I was talking with our friend Nate, and he was like, I wonder if they're going to make Jane the villain, if it's going to finally come to a head. And so when this happened, I thought that's the direction it was going to go. But he's taken out of the fight almost instantly.
Yeah, I like that they don't even show it. It's just like he's so overmatched against River now.
Yeah, but like, he's capable of turning on them on a dime.
Yeah.
And that was beautifully shot to show us this. This is the one shot that I think could have been more effective, because this is supposed to be a jump scare, and it just doesn't work. His reaction is there, but the timing of it I think is off.
I know the crew's kind of freaking out, like she's out, but I guess maybe it's because I kind of know more of the story, but like I just don't believe her to be like a real threat to the crew.
Yeah. I mean, she's injured Jane before, and she's held a gun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's been scary, but I think that's something that they did better on the show, of showing how she could be a potential sudden threat, like in the final episode of the show.
Yeah.
Where she's holding the stick, and then she looks down and the stick is actually a gun, and everybody's freaking out.
Yes, I think with that it makes a bit more sense.
Yeah. I like how...
And I get why Mal would be freaked out and like being like, no, she can't be loose on my ship. Like, clearly she's unstable.
Yeah. Oh, there's the Kaylee sign that
you're
talking about.
That's where it was.
That's nice details. I like how it also shows how well Mal knows his ship. If he goes through that vent, he can come up through the floor and try to take back control of the ship.
Yeah.
And she's
just like,
he just holsters his gun.
Yeah. It's like, I guess I gotta talk it out with this.
Yes.
I do like that speaks to her very, like, calmly and like a normal, like, not like, you're crazy, like, we can't have a normal conversation. But he's like, asks her a very direct question. Are you anything but a weapon? Which...
Yeah. That is quite interesting. Or we could talk more. Yeah, he's so good in this movie. This seems like a relatively good point to talk about the alien resurrection of it all. Joss Whedon wrote Alien Resurrection, and originally it was without the character of Ripley. It was on a second pass of the screenplay he included the character of Ripley. Beforehand, it was just about these space pirates who didn't know that they were human trafficking, bringing embryoed people to this space station where they were going to breed aliens. But if you watch Alien Resurrection, it very much feels like the first pass at Firefly. You have the war hero Mal kind of character governing the ship. You have a female who is the ship's mechanic. You have played by Winona Ryder. You have the thug Jane character played by Ron Perlman in that movie. You have Ripley in that movie that feels very much like River does in this. It feels like a first attempt, so much so that it's like he knew that movie didn't work, but the elements he knew could work, and that's where you get this movie.
I don't remember. I think I've seen Alien Resurrection, but it's been so long that I don't remember any of it.
It's interesting to come back to. This devastates me.
Yes.
By the way. He was my favorite character, and I assumed somebody was going to die, and I figured since he was hardly in the movie, once they got to this planet, I knew it was him.
Yeah.
Joss had to get his jollies off by killing somebody I dearly care about.
Yep. It does make... It works so well, though, because it's not just killing something. It's like, from the operative's point of view, it makes total sense, right? Yeah. He has no qualms about murdering every place that sheltered them.
Yeah. So this one, he didn't even know that this was going to hit them close to home. He has no way of knowing that this man was ever on that ship.
Yep.
But as the audience who's seen the show, this is devastating. As somebody who's just watching, you've already seen them have a sweet moment together.
Yeah.
Where they talk about basically the thesis of what this movie's about, which is belief. I also like that there is not a single serious moment of dialogue in it. He's just laughing hysterically. I shot them down. That wasn't very Christian of me. Well, that's...
Coming from you,
right.
That means almost nothing.
It's great.
It does encapsulate the relationship pretty well, but...
Yeah.
And I like that they explain, because when I first saw this, I'm like, how is he still alive? And they're not, and then he's like, oh, he shot down the ship, so that makes a bit of sense. Why?
Yeah.
And this is touching, where I'm not one of your crew.
Yeah. When I first saw it in the theater, I was rolling tears, man. I was so sad.
Yeah.
And then the entire movie is, I don't care what you believe, just believe it. Find something to believe in, and that's how you will move forward.
Yep.
Mal is rudderless and lost, as he says, and from this moment forward, he's found a reason. And then I think that's going to carry him through well after the movie ends, because he struck at the Alliance. He didn't kill them dead, but he has a motivation now to keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah, that... Again, for how much, humor or non-serious conversation it was, that death scene, hits really hard, and I think really is one of the most impactful scenes of the entire movie.
It really is. It's so strong.
I also thought when he was dying, he's like, I don't care, believing. I knew he wasn't going to talk about God because of what they had said before, but when I first was watching it, I thought he was going to be believe in River or something like that. Yeah. And then he's like, no, it doesn't matter, just believe in something.
Yeah. His final message is quite strong. And I like how you go to all these places, and then he just does a broad reach from every cam to get to him.
Yeah.
This is the scene that sums up his character best, where he flat out states that he's willing to murder children if I have to, and then he explains about the better world to Mal. This is Mal's discovery of that piece. He believes in something greater than himself, a better world. A world without sin. Mal is frustrated about that, and then he explains that he has no plans of living there because he's a monster.
That's what makes him such a good villain, is like he's not delusional.
Yeah.
He's so logical, knows it. He's like, I don't need to know the reason. I believe in something greater than myself. I don't belong there, but I'm still willing to do whatever. And that's when you realize, okay, yeah, he will merge. Like, he will do anything. He's like an unstoppable force because he has this belief that he's right.
Yeah. Which ties into the thesis of the film.
Yeah.
And Mal changes in that moment. And you can see his change when he comes back out. He carries himself different than he did before.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how he's telling them to basically butcher the ship that we've seen as the home. And that's when Zoe's going to call him out on it being a home.
Yeah.
Firefly's established as also not having any weapons on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells him to grab the weapons any you can put on and mount it onto the hull.
Yeah. Like, he comes out of it, he has the plan. He realizes not everybody's going to understand, but he's just like, I don't care, this is what I'm doing. Everybody's needs to get on board. And you can tell they're like coming around and
this is your point of harbor. And the way he kills this man is completely different than the way he killed the man in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is sort of nice parallelism. You saw him do what he did out of mercy before, and now he's doing it because he's in a war.
Yep. And like, right, it doesn't, like, the guy had his hands up even at the end there, and they're kind of like, right, like...
Yeah, everybody's looking at him scared and cold. Like, they fear him, and they have a right to. He's lost it.
Mm-hmm. But...
I missed the shot earlier. One of my other favorite shots in the movie is when she's framed by the flaming swing.
Oh,
the
yeah.
children's swing. That's a beautiful shot. Now you're seeing the beautiful Firefly looking just beastly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to watch if you're a fan of the show, especially. This is the other moment that I understand that he needs a moment here to show that he what he's going through, but I feel like it's 30 some odd seconds of dead screen time.
Yeah.
That I don't think you needed, or you could have conveyed a different way anyway.
I wonder if it's to try and like build up, like they're flying through space, they're about to enter Reaver territory, so like they show the ship, but rather than just immediately getting to the Reavers, maybe there's some like build up of like travel time. But yeah, I agree, it didn't add a ton.
Yeah. Now, the sounds coming through, which we're watching in mute, but the sounds coming through here is just haunting.
Yeah.
And the fact that everybody's kind of huddled together, terrified, including her, is something that we haven't seen on this level before.
No. And like, there's nothing they can do, really. They're just hoping they don't get noticed at this point.
Yeah.
This did make me start to think of like, how do Reavers actually operate? Because they clearly recognize each other, and they don't just attack everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't go into it too much, but like, there's some humanity in Reavers still, where they've broken off from the rest of humanity, but they still have a messed up society of themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or they're just zombies, and zombies don't eat each other.
That's true. Why don't they? They should eat each other. I've always felt that.
It's dead, decaying flesh. Who would want that?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I like that the succinctness of that scene and how intense it is, that you know that when they come back out, off planet, you're gonna have to go through the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But what's haunting is that what's happening on the planet is just as scary. This is one scene I would have meant. Define disappeared. He should have said, oh God, I'm gonna die."
Yeah.
That would have been fun. So this is where they're coming through to Miranda. And as the audience, for the first time watching, you're like, what the hell is going to be on this planet? Is it just going to be Planet of the Reavers? What's going on? And finding just this desolate landscape where there's nothing.
Yeah. But with this all advanced architecture, because they were, maybe expecting to find like some tiny civilization that died off.
Yeah. This works. The level of intrigue in this scene is really strong. He's good at writing scenes that kind of like pull you in because you're like, what am I watching for, kind of thing. You're waiting for the ball to drop.
Yeah, actually that previous shot where they had their full spacesuits on, he finally takes it off, and then you still don't know because you've just seen the ship, so you don't know what the planet's going to be like.
Yeah.
And then they zoom out and you're like, oh no, they're at this advanced spaceport.
Yeah. Fun fact, this scene was filmed in the same place they did the mall scenes from the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh really?
So one day was like the mall from the 40-Year-Old Virgin. They had it for 2 days. They stripped it down, made it like this zombie territory, and then 2 days later it went back up so they could finish filming 40-Year-Old Virgin.
That's strange.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I found that out from the commentary for 40-Year-Old Virgin.
That's
of all
funny.
things.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it turns into kind of this mystery where it's what actually happened?
Yeah, what is going on? There's dead bodies here and there that are in full decomposition.
Yeah. I like the architecture of this. It's kind of like Frank Lloyd Wright sort of architecture.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but that right there, that's where they filmed 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is wild. Yeah, the architecture is really kind of neat and compelling.
Yes. Definitely
just
be. Don't. And
it's such a creepy shot.
It is.
And it is super unsettling that nobody's fallen down. They've just kind of slumped.
Yeah.
They've gone to sleep. All while they were working and shit. It's really weird.
And you're like, was there some gas? They didn't fall? No.
Yeah.
And then she's still seeing.
Yeah, the shots of the bodies everywhere was very important to get in there.
Every house, they're all inside of me, yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying nothing. That's haunting.
Yeah.
I like that this Michael Bay kind of swoop around them.
Mm.
But you see how she's spiraling out of control, and it's informative of character. It's not just there to be flashy. And I like how it then spins around onto them.
Yeah. I'm actually I guess only one thing to do, get to the beacon.
Yeah. Research and rescue. So they tried to help whatever was happening. So that it was a full cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
If they sent help at some point.
I actually didn't pick up on that before, but yeah.
And, man, I can't imagine how you'd have to block that many people into a scene. That'd be frustrating. There's so many actors. And I like how she sees it and knows exactly what to do.
It just plays this message.
And this is her catharsis.
Yeah.
Sarah Paulson is one of my favorite actresses. She's a tremendous, outstanding performer. She steals the entire movie in one scene. Like, this is so good and so haunting.
And it needs to be, because that's what they're going to broadcast later.
To everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how she pulled this performance off. Like, the authority of it and the, like, desperation and sadness all had to be conveyed perfectly, and she does it.
I do have one criticism here, like, so the people stopped fighting, then they stopped everything else, and then she goes to, like, eat, like, working, eating, breathing. But it's like, breathing's the critical, like, everyone just dropped where they were, clearly they stopped breathing, and that's what killed everybody.
It says breeding.
Oh, breeding. Oh. Actually, okay.
Okay, that makes a little more sense, but
yeah.
I also thought it was breathing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess the importance of subtitles, folks.
Yeah. And this is where you find out about the Reavers.
When I saw this in the theater, I've never seen, like, a plot twist that was more shocking to me in a movie. This was my sixth sense. As a fan of the show, when I discovered that the Reavers, they made them, when Wash says it right there, Reavers, they made them, I, like, have never been more stunned in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, the entire time, Reavers were, like, this monster, like, maybe they went crazy at the edge of space, it makes a little sense, there's a bit of mystery behind them.
And the Alliance keeps saying they don't exist, but we've seen them in the first episode. Like, we've seen their ships, not them.
Yeah. And then it makes so much sense why the Alliance is trying to deny that they exist at all, why they're so invested in getting River there, why it was so important. Like, because I didn't realize this the first time watching it, but the fact that key members of Parliament went to visit River when they were first doing the testing, and then he's just like, you let key members of Parliament do that, who also knew about the Reavers.
Yes.
And it kind of ties it all together.
It does. It's, like, that reveal to me was, like, I had goosebumps when I saw that in the theater. And what follows here is so good.
And I think this scene I thought was particularly powerful, where she's, like, freaking out, but then she's just like, I'm alright. And it's like, there was that cathartic, like you said, that cathartic release. Like, that is what was driving her crazies, because she had all of that information from other people in her brain.
And she couldn't communicate it. Yeah, it's a great moment. And then this scene is so beautifully shot. It's golden and heroic, and he has found purpose. When you talk about belief and whatnot, having golden sun shining behind a yellow background and whatnot, this is like his hero moment.
Yeah.
His monologue here is also one of my favorite things. I did an audition where for the movie Jumper, back when I was doing, like, acting stuff, and they were like, do you have a monologue prepared? And I was like, nah, I can do one. And I just did this speech.
Did you?
And so somewhere there's video of me doing this.
Oh, I want to see that. And then I like at the very end, I aim to misbehave, because, like, yeah, it was such this, like, heroic speech.
Yes.
And then just a little bit of, like...
Yeah.
I also like that Jane's the first one who's like, I'm in.
It's so perfect. And he references Book, uniting Book in on this, even though he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that when he says, I aim to misbehave, he fully comes out of the light, and he's sharing the golden light with them, whereas before he was washed out.
Mm-hmm.
He's found his purpose. And then...
I like that.
Yeah.
Right, because, again, I love this because they don't make the bad guys dumb in any of the scenes.
No. No, the bad guys are... everybody is acting intelligently throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about what you know, basically. And they don't know that Mal is bringing with him an entire fleet.
Like, I was watching this the first time, I'm like, what is he gonna do? What is he gonna do? And I couldn't think of it. And then, once I saw him get on I guess it's not quite yet, but, like, I figured, right, Alliance knew, clearly there's gonna be a trap. Yeah. Mal has no problem going into traps. He's like, I'll figure my way out.
Yeah. I was sad when he died. I liked his character.
Yeah.
And the cut to the robot seems pointless until you realize later that she is the point of that scene, I guess.
Exactly.
Is that she recorded it all.
I also really liked how the operative, he didn't respect Mr. Universe at all, so he just stabs him with the sword. He didn't give him the, like...
Yeah, he didn't give him the speech that... You're right, I never picked up on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Alien Resurrection before, and according to IMDb, so I don't know how truthful it is, but they're relatively accurate, the ship that attacks them here is the Betty, which was the ship from Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
And looking at it now, it looks like it inspired by, I don't know if it's the same model, but it was probably relatively similar to it. I like that it looks like this big spider thing. It's really creepy.
Or like a crab with its claws.
The Betty was the pirate ship that crew was on in Alien Resurrection.
And then just...
I figured out what he was doing right here.
Yep.
And I like this scene because people catch on to it at different times.
Yep.
Some people not until the moment the Reavers come through. Some people are like, it's somewhere around here where they're like, oh shit, this is about to get real.
Yeah.
But this is, this is just so great. I like this. You should have let me see her, Captain.
He's so smug, too.
Yeah, we should have done this as men, not with fire. Yeah, it's true. He's such a...
And he's just like, all right.
Here we go, this is it.
Lock on. The poor fools.
And then, yeah, like, all of those weapons. Until...
Bastard.
This is such a great moment. Just the immediate turn.
Yep. And it's, it makes...
Target the Reapers. Target the Reapers. You've never seen him lose control, and this is where he loses it. He's always been in command of every moment you've seen him in, and that's the part where he's not.
Yep.
Roger Ebert gave this a positive review, but he said that the film's greatest strength is this scene, which I think I agree with. This is probably the very best scene of the movie. We have the leaf on the wind, watch how I soar, which is incredibly badass. But he said that he's never seen a space battle that acts more like a crash test dummy. It's like NASCAR in space, where you're just waiting for the disaster to happen.
Yep.
And that's true. I like the callback.
And then what does that mean?
What does that even mean? It's the joke is lads. That line plays so good. It goes from badass to being funny, and then being horrifying.
Yeah.
And I like how everybody else, we've seen the little gun that ship has, and it's not anything that can attack these guys.
Yeah.
So all they have to do is fly, and I like that Wash is doing it the whole time. Really showcasing his abilities.
Yeah. I do find it funny that none of them are strapped in yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they would have been flying all over that ship at that point.
That's a really good, artificial gravity.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think they just didn't think about it.
Probably. I like that there's 2 escape pods that go. That's like a nice little touch. One of them just gets eaten.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I do like they showcase, that Wash is such a great pilot,
Every character is given a moment, even if it's only one moment, to showcase what their strength is and how they contribute to this series and movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the most exceptional scene in the movie. I've never seen a more white-knuckle space scene in any movie. And I've seen all the Star Wars and Star Treks and things like that. This is the definitive space battle.
Yep. Oh, and they did have an EMP, so that probably knocked out the artificial gravity. That's why they're okay, we gotta strap in, and they lost the steering, and...
Yeah. like it's having the camera so tightly on them and then going to these wide shots where you see the chaos happening.
I also like that Jane's the one who like checks.
Yeah,
everybody.
I did too.
And then he almost gets.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna die in that scene.
I did too. Yeah.
When he went flying, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna get impaled. The irony of having that thought, like, has stuck with me my whole filmic life.
I mean, yeah.
And it's brilliant not to have anybody die in that
in
moment.
the moment, right? Because that's exactly when
that's
like,
when
the attention is highest. You're like, this is it. They're not going to make it. Or they're going to, like, yeah. I mean, I didn't expect the entire ship to crash, but, like, I could have definitely seen Jane dying or somebody.
Yeah, and that's totally what I expected. He gets control back, and you're like, all right, this is it.
20%. I like how they ask, will that work? And he doesn't even answer. He just... Yeah. And then you're just like...
Oh, that just looks brutal. Like, you can feel that. This is so well shot. Like, you can feel the... how they're losing their ship there.
Yeah.
Like, that just is so violent.
It's also, like, it makes it like, this is a one-way trip. Like, there's no escaping back out of this. They gotta broadcast that message or they're all ready to die to do it.
That's what makes Wash's death matter, is that, like, the fact that their ship is destroyed is fine and whatnot, but a ship, even if it is a character in the show, is only a ship. You need to have somebody go in order to think that this is going to be Reservoir Dogs.
But not like this. Like, you just got the tension relief. And
it's like... and it's so perfect. His joke to bring levity, and then...
Right? I did not see that. Oh.
When it happened, I was horrified. I, like, literally went numb when that happened, and I was like, oh my god. And that the moment that it happened, I was like, they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that this ends without their death. I had no idea what was gonna happen throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah. It was one of the most unexpected deaths I've ever seen.
That is the best use of a character dying in a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's other great character deaths. Sam Jackson's death in The Deep Blue Sea, I think, is a masterpiece. But but that death there is the most perfect use of death and how it functions narratively.
I also like how Zoe just goes into full war mode. Like,
she goes exactly like we saw Mal, and it's weird that Mal is the one that tries to pull her out and is like, "Are you here?"
Yeah. And she goes like to that very much like.
Yeah. The first time I saw it, I thought she should have been more emotional. The second time, I got it why she wasn't.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be emotional because I was emotional.
Yes. I had the same feeling.
And the fact that Kaylee is the one that is emotional here, of like, wait, Wash, where's Wash? That's where he made the right choice by having Zoe be hard and her be our emotional cushion.
Yep.
And the way she delivers that always made me cry.
Yeah.
He ain't coming and stuff. Oh. And just the shot back to everybody, and then she's loading the weapons, and he's like, we gotta get back to the job, guys.
Yep.
Like, he's just there for self-preservation. Oh. This ending is my favorite movie ending.
And then, the Reavers are just terrifying. Like, even if they are... I think they're better than zombies, but even if they are, they're very terrifying zombies at the very least.
There's weight to what's happening.
Although I don't like that they threw 2 grenades right there.
Yeah.
One would have done.
Yeah, why did they throw 2? I never noticed that. You're right. That is... like, they didn't have it out. If they had breached, they could have, like, used that to...
They still have one more.
Yeah.
But I do love the callback to the earlier scene when they're on the speeder getting away.
Tell me you brought it this time. Yeah,
and
here,
then,
where is it?
Do the job,
sir. Yeah. But even though she says she's here...
Yeah, you can tell.
She has immediately goes to, do you really think any of us are getting out?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what all the audience is thinking at this time.
Yep.
And it cuts to everybody. And then his brilliant...
I'm right.
I was sure if anybody's going to die, it's going to be him.
Yeah. It is, right, because that's like... That little bit of humor with Jane there releases all of the tension that had... Well, not all of it, but like so much of the tension that had been built up.
Yeah. seeing this with a wide audience too is great. I've seen it 10 times in the theater. I saw it 5 during its theatrical run, and then I saw it at 5 separate charity events. But let's see. Interestingly, the Miranda reveal was supposed to be the end of season 2. That was always part of the plan.
Okay.
When you pitch a TV show to a studio, you're supposed to have like what's called a book or whatever, and Whedon has always had full season arcs when he pitched to the studios, and sometimes they deviated and changed, but what the plot of this movie was supposed to be the entirety of season 2. Just truncated to 2 hours.
Yeah. Which is hard. I can't believe they did such a good job of getting everything in.
Yeah.
It's a very tight movie.
Yeah, its script is genuinely, like, impressive.
Yeah. Right, like we mentioned the 30 seconds of dead time, like, earlier, and it stands out because that's, like, the only thing that doesn't really move the plot forward or provide important information, or...
Yeah, the only thing it does is it centers Mal as a character for that 30 seconds. But, yeah, you're right, the reason it stands out is because everything else is so tight, and just that moment to take a breath, you're like, I don't want to breathe right now, just get back to the story.
I also like Kaylee's moment here, like...
Yeah.
She's, like, prepared to die. She's clearly not a trained fighter at all.
How she holds the gun and the shaking and stuff.
Like, I hope we did right, but she's not fully convinced.
Yeah.
And then it turns to the personal story.
Her recognizing her mortality in the scene is great. And then Simon gives her a reason to live. Yeah. This whole thing is so perfect. It's a shame we didn't get more of her character in this movie, but where she's in, she shines. Yeah. This scene always got a cheer at the charity screenings.
I like that. just, I mean, it's sex.
I mean to say, yeah. Right here is where
she has her Jane moment.
Cheers. Yeah. Hell with this, I'm gonna live. And then suddenly she has confidence. Yeah. She's so good.
Yeah.
And then wisely, too, Whedon hurts every character so that when somebody gets injured, you're like, oh my god, did they just die too? And then, that's really kind of great. Every single character gets what looks like could be a mortal injury.
Yeah. I also like that, right, the robot goes again for this other guy, right? Yeah. It's not specifically for Mel, and then it's like, okay, it provides the reason for how the operative knows where to go.
Exactly. And I like how it startles him. He looks around to see if it's trapped for a second, and then he realizes the mistake that's been made, kind of thing.
But again, it's like 3 seconds, all of that happened, and provides the reasoning, so,
This movie operates at like a sprint, but there's so much packed into it.
Yeah, I like the...
Hard to get to. That's a fact. That is hard to get to. Yeah, that's so good. I could not... have you tried doing monkey bars anytime recently?
Yeah, actually.
I did it over the summer. I would have died. I would have gone right into that fan. I would have gotten
the first thing, you're like, all right, I got...
I would have maybe gotten 3, and then I would have just been dead. I have no idea. He did those monkey bars, supposedly. I don't know how he did that.
I think it's... I mean, like, all the fighting on them, that would be impossible. But, like... Yeah. I think getting across, maybe... Although I'm always wondering, like, if this was a backup unit, why wouldn't you make it easy to get to? Like, wouldn't you want to have it, like, at least a little accessible? Yeah. I also was like, I was always curious why he fell backwards rather than forwards there.
Oh, yeah. That is kind of interesting. That's lucky, basically.
Yeah.
He looks so sinister in that, like, coming out of the darkness. I like how we have the handheld shot. He's always been, like, very structured, but now it's, like, a little wild.
Yeah.
And then this is where Mal reveals that he's found something to believe in.
Yep.
Do you really believe that? I do. You're willing to die for that belief. And he realizes it right there. I am.
Yeah.
And then
bang. Just the... Yes.
The one thing that the operative doesn't have on Mal is the gun.
Yep. Of course, that ain't exactly playing out like
that. He's so good. Look at him go, man. Yeah, looking at that as, my God, that's terrifying.
Right.
I like them all attacking. We glossed over Zoe getting cut.
Yeah.
When I saw that happen, I thought she was dead.
I thought for sure, like, because then it made sense. She's like, okay, she's just going out, and like,
Yeah.
I like how she's like, just give me a bandage.
Yeah, I like this like foam that they use.
Yeah.
Jeez, that one zombie looks terrifying.
Yeah.
A Reaver, I guess.
I do like that the Reavers use technology too, though. They're not
Yeah.
completely mindless.
Yeah, you can see the human operating the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Though they are called something different, they still have a societal function kind of thing. The placement of the fan and stuff is made for great added tension.
Yeah.
Because you're expecting one of them to go into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they don't.
Yeah, I actually did not see the fight ending how it does.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you think it was gonna go?
I figured Mal would toss him down.
I was waiting for like the glass to break or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Kaylee got shot in the neck there, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and here, right after Wash died, I was just like, okay, maybe they... I still figured Mal would at least get the message out, but then I thought maybe... either that, or like then maybe like they'll all die. Like, I could very well see him getting the message out and everybody dying.
Everybody heroically going out Rogue One style.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally how I thought it was going to happen, too. The retreat...
Very last one.
Could have had two, bro.
Right? That's what I was saying.
This part here always got a gasp from the audience.
Yeah.
No one's coming back from that.
And they're like still willing to do it, but like they're also injured. They physically can't.
Yeah.
And I like Zoe's just like calm, like, all right, like I guess we'll just try and let the bodies clog up the hole.
Mm-hmm. And then boom. It was excellent use of slow-mo, the shock of it all.
Mm-hmm. You see River's eyes go wide, and you're like, okay, that's gonna snap. Like,
yeah.
Either she's
I like that Inara's they have no more doctor. Inara's now the only one to offer comfort.
Yeah. And I like how Simon's just like still...
He's still thinking
about how to save Kaylee, like being like shot at and like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I just like this fully feels like everyone's going out.
Yeah. It's such a great conclusion. This scene is always like super emotional.
Because I had like the moment of calm right before it's all...
And the lights all going out and stuff. It's just, this is the moment of hopelessness. And then, I take care of you, Simon.
Yep. My turn.
Yeah.
Or you've always taken care of me.
Yeah, you've always taken care of me. My turn. And as she stands, it's flooded with light.
Yep.
And
then you're just... and then
run.
And you're like, what the... And then you're like, yep.
That is such a great shot there. Oh. How spectacular.
And then Schutz like gets the bag and then being dragged back and you're just like...
Yeah.
I was curious whether she would be able to survive or not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was gonna bite it.
But that at least gives the glimmer of hope.
Yeah. It's and they sell it visually with the return of the light.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. And his little screwdriver is so perfect. So what a great shot. But the thing is, he's fucking successful with it. Like, at close range like that, it is a real threat. How do you feel about his stabbing here? I think it should have been more off to the side, not dead center the way it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because, like, clearly as is, it's lethal.
Yeah.
But he makes use of that screwdriver.
He does.
That's my favorite line, by the way.
I do. Like, I'm going to have to go with Wrath.
Yeah. You know what your sin is? Oh, hell, I'm a fan of all seven. Right now, I have to go with Wrath. Such a good line.
That really is.
And then this is the moment of like, are they going to win this?
Yeah, and I like that Jane, like, again, he's the one, he's always been the asshole, like, out for himself, but he's like, did he get through? Like, he was willing to go along with this for the greater purpose, and, like, that's what he's caring about at the end.
Yeah. Like, it shows, there's character growth for a lot of these characters.
Yeah.
The repeat of that was great.
Yes.
And I fully anticipated him to go out here.
Yep, me too. And then I like that, like, he respects Mal, so he's giving him the speech and, like, gives him this honorable death.
Yep. You've already lost.
And then you're just like...
Yeah. You're fighting a war you've already lost. Well, I'm known for that.
And then just...
And I like that he doesn't kill him.
Yeah, that's what I was not expecting.
Yeah.
But it actually comes back to be important, and like I wonder if Mal knew that, or if he was just wanting him to see things.
Yeah. The thing is he does exactly to the Alliance here what they did to him when Serenity Valley breaks.
Mm-hmm.
When the war was called for their surrender. You see this just haunting shot of him watching the Alliance ships drop over Serenity Valley, and he loses all hope and all belief.
Yeah.
And he's about to do that to the operative right here.
Yeah.
It's a great symmetrical call to the first moment of the first episode. And really makes the operative an interesting character moving forward. Had they had a chance to do a sequel, I can't not believe that he wouldn't have played a major part in it.
Yeah.
But would he have been a hero? Would he, like...
I don't know. Like, his entire belief system just gets shattered, right? Like,
Yeah.
he has... I'm actually surprised in a couple scenes where he recovers as quickly as he does.
It's true. A month had to have passed or something, right?
Right, because he's just like, he was willing to murder children and do all of that stuff because he thought he was in the right.
Yeah, it's true. This scene is
just...
the music here, too, just swelling, and you've already gotten the moment that, like, regardless of whether or not they live, they won.
Yep.
And then with the music swelling and the hope that she is still fighting. But that right there is the same shot of Mal from the pilot.
I never realized that, but yeah, that makes it's full circle.
Yeah. So just as one person loses their belief, another one gains theirs.
Yep. And they're all like, he looks like everyone just looks like hell. Yeah.
The shot of him walking over that bridge was the scene that Emmanuel was like, that's the most heroic thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. Emmanuel's a friend of ours. Yeah.
And they're like, River, and they're just like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then she like matches Mal's entrance.
This is the one scene that really doesn't make sense in the sense that when they closed that, wasn't it always supposed to stay closed? You can't get it from the other side. That said, I'm fine with it. It's a movie. That scene's so badass.
Yeah.
Man, that eye is fucked up.
Yeah, it is. And then here I'm just like, oh, well, fuck, they did all of that, and then the Alliance just comes.
Yep, it's all over. Man, the shot here of when she looks like she's getting ready to take them all down, and you're like, can she do it?
Yeah. I was like, no, like, they've got guns, like, the range, but she... Oh, I like the... Nice. Yes.
Stand down. And it's the operative that ends the thing.
Yeah, which is why it's important that Mal left him alive.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you almost feel like...
You could tell he wasn't sure how it was going to end, and then he's just like, oh.
Yeah.
It paid off.
This is such a beautiful shot, too. Reminding the audience of what they lost.
Yeah. This
was not like a simple fight.
Yeah.
This had weight to it. It mattered.
And yeah, I feel like from the audience perspective, Mr. Universe, that death didn't hit too hard for people. Like,
Yeah.
sad he died, but like, not a big deal. Book, if you've seen the show, was a really big death. If you just saw the movie, I think it would be sad, but not like Wash would be the most impactful if you've just seen the movie by far.
Yeah, for sure. And he's given that moment. Ugh. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She lights it. I wish we could have seen it blow. But whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's back to work, fixing the ship. And that's why it has to have been like months.
yeah, this was not a, you're right.
But yeah. She's repainting everything.
Taking the cannon off, yeah.
Yep. This is gonna be their ship again. They got a new wing somewhere.
They finally get a hookup.
Yeah. He was surprisingly more buff than
I was gonna say, he's very muscular.
Yeah, I was like shocked when I first saw this. And what a creepy,
this is so
shot.
creepy. Yeah. I don't know if that was necessary, but it's funny.
It's so funny. Definitely not necessary. And I like this little coda of a scene to really bring about the ending of their relationship. Mal and the operative.
Yep.
But he's not threatening anymore. He doesn't feel like a threat when he shows back up.
No.
And it's not because of, like, we saw Mal beat him. It's just he carries himself differently.
Yeah. He's no longer after... Yeah. They're no longer the target of his mission, maybe, or he's changed his belief. He no longer has that 100% certainty that he had before.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm no longer there.
That man. There is a deleted scenes here that I think really works. And he shouldn't have deleted it, where he asks, how do you move on? And he's like, I'm not telling you. And then he just kind of walks away, which kind of shows you exactly what you need to do. You just need to move on.
Yeah.
That's something you need to find for yourself. I love this scene where he and her are talking, and it could be about the ship, but it's absolutely about her.
Yeah.
Which is such a beautiful moment. He's just making sure everything is all right. Could get bumpy, and it always is.
Yeah. And it feels like, it will be all right in the long run.
Yeah. We get to reconnect with everybody except for Jane one last time.
Yeah.
We just see him eating. I like their last little moment.
I like this really, really a lot.
Yeah.
Because I like how she's not certain, and then he just goes, good answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She plays it really well. And so does he.
Yeah.
But then the whole movie has been about these two characters, so it should end with these two characters. And it makes sense that the psychic would be the one driving the, piloting the ship. Like, that seems like a good call.
Yeah.
And I like that they still honor Wash by keeping his dinosaurs. I have that very Stegosaurus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I thought about it. It's in the garage. I thought about digging it out. But it's cold. Minnesota, man.
Yeah. Don't blame you. Not one bit. He's just like, wait, guess we've got clearly some aptitude.
Some aptitude for that. And then he goes into, it's not all buttons and charts. And I like that he recognizes that she knows what he's going to say. And then I like that she tosses it to him anyway. And then
I wasn't sure, is that because she's psychic or because he's said it so many times in the past?
I read it as it's psychic, but I do love that what it comes down to is love. You do all this because of love, the people in the ship and all that stuff. This is his way of saying that if you're here, you are family.
Yeah. And it kind of like ties into that belief, right? Like you love the ship, you believe it'll take you there, whether it's the ship or whatever else, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And he ends on that love is what makes her a home. and then they'll pass through the storm, which tells the audience that they're going to ride this out.
Yep.
Had we gotten a sequel and stuff, it would have been great to see where they went. I don't know what they would have done with it, but as of now, they just end.
And I like that they have the little piece flying off at the end, just to show that things aren't completely different. They're still
they're still driving a piece of crap.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is Serenity. This is my all-time favorite movie. I've seen it 10 times theatrically and as many times as I can afterwards. I have a young daughter. I can't wait to show it to her when she's old enough.
And this was probably my 4th or 5th time watching it.
Right on.
And it's not my all-time favorite, but it's up there. It's just fantastic, start to finish.
Out of curiosity, what is your favorite movie?
I was trying to think. It changes too much.
Yeah,
I don't think I have a single favorite. It kind of cycles between a few. Like Lord of the Rings is up there.
Yeah.
I would say as a trilogy, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that. As viewing those 3 movies as one epic movie, that I cannot think of a more perfect combination of artistry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And those came out around the same time too.
2001, 2, 3, and then this was 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people kind of crap on the early 2000s for their output of like genre film, but there are a couple of, like, obviously the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potters really set the tone for the fantasy genre that dominated that decade. But there's a lot of artsy movies more like this one that I think are kind of overlooked because Lord of the Rings takes so much attention.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, yeah.
Which at the time were much maligned, and now people are kind of coming back to a little more soft with their criticisms.
I just, every part of me, every time I watch it, I still want them to go back and make another one. And because even a few years ago, I would hear rumors, or Nathan Fillion, when he was shooting Castle, he would every once in a while he'd have like a Halloween costume where he would dress up in the Firefly thing, and the crew, because clearly all the actors and actresses, they loved shooting this series. They were all on board, except for, I guess, Book. And
it was Alan Tudyk was doing plays and stuff, and he was committed to a multi-year play at the time.
Yeah.
So he couldn't commit to a long-term thing because he didn't know. So that's why, however, Whedon had said that he could have baked both of them into the script for a sequel through the use of flashback or whatever to come in a small capacity. They just wouldn't be part of the crew anymore.
So what was it? Just because this wasn't very successful theatrically that they decided not to do anymore?
Correct. And then by the time it turned a profit, because it did very well on DVD, Blu-ray, digital, this came out the same year as the Blu-ray technology. All that stuff did really well, but by that point, everybody had moved on to something else. You had Fillion doing Castle, you had Tudyk doing Spamalot, and Jane was in, what was it, Chuck?
Yeah.
And Summer Glau was in the Terminator TV show, Whedon was doing Dollhouse, and then eventually Avengers stuff. There was no time where the crew kind of could assemble again naturally. Yeah. And now they're at a point where I don't think it would make sense to do it with that same crew, and probably not doing anything with Whedon for a while. He's probably going to be sitting out on timeout for a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe he'll have an operative moment of rethinking his bully or assholeness.
Yeah, his whole career. You watch all of his shows, and it's all about redemption on some level. None more so than Angel. But you'd think that he would have bought into what he was preaching on some level and would seek forgiveness on some level. And it just doesn't seem like that's what he's doing. But it also could be that people aren't allowing him an opportunity to try. But I don't know. The whole Whedon thing is its own mess, and by and large, none of the Firefly actors anyway had any negative things to say about Whedon. There was, I think, 1 or 2 staff members who said in the writing room he did not conduct himself properly here and there. Abusive power situations.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add before we roll out the last thing?
No, but if you haven't seen Firefly, watch that show.
What's your favorite episode?
Oh, I don't even know. Honestly, there's so many. I love the train heist one. The last episode, that was one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I loved the last episode.
I would say those are probably my top 2.
Out of Gas is my favorite one. That's where you kind of get the backstory of
actually, yes,
how everybody comes on board that you didn't meet in the pilot episode. Out of Gas is probably my favorite, or the last episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying, if you haven't seen Firefly,
watch it.
Watch it. I agree. Firefly is one of my favorite shows. I'm a fan of Whedon's work in general. I think he writes how I feel, I guess, which makes like his toxic nature a little more troubling to me, but I also kind of get it, why people don't want to revisit him or want to take some time away. But for me, it's something where I have to separate the art and the artist, because without him and his works, he very much formed who I am as a person and individual, and my tastes and stuff like that. He just speaks to me. So
yeah, he writes in a very realistic way that I think a lot of people connect with, and is able to juggle multiple characters so well and like get through. Right, it's why it's so impactful is because people oftentimes have almost like River having those thoughts in her heads, but you can't formulate them. Yeah. Having like somebody like Joss Whedon able to write it out and make a movie around it makes it so much easier to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this was our first commentary. I plan on doing this as like a monthly special. This was the first month of it. I am not sure what I'm going to do for February, but I hope to have a different guest critic each month, and maybe sometime down the line you can come back and do another one.
Yeah, we could Tremors.
Tremors would be a great
Anything
one.
but Daredevil.
I like Daredevil. I'm going to do Daredevil. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and peace.
Peace.